So you now have this car, you have it a month, but you do not get this car smogged. Why?
Because I was already, when they towed it, we paid almost $900 to get it towed, plus the 23 something change. So I was already down. I was already down.
Month.
Okay, I was already down 34, almost 3,500. So I was bumped.
You know what? You couldn't get that car smogged. I believe that you tried and you couldn't.
But the sale was as is without a smog. We don't do this as a profession. Yeah. We only did it to flip.
We buy and sell furniture, but...
Okay, then we're going to excuse you all while we deliberate in this matter. Thank you.
This courtroom is now in recess.
According to the law of California, the seller is required to provide a successful smog certification to the buyer, as the buyer will need evidence of that to register the vehicle.
Yes.
But if the buyer explicitly agrees that he'll take it, then no harm is done and the seller is free to do it. So there is room here to negotiate away that responsibility. Problem is, the plaintiff really has the burden of showing that there was some fraud in the transaction. And I found some ambiguity in the text messages and how things evolved that led me to think the plaintiff was now using this as an excuse to get out of the deal, because after he bought it, he discovered he needed some additional repairs like a catalytic converter and felt that he got a bad deal.
There's a text message from him where he says, hey, I just learned that you needed to have the car smog checked. I'm almost certain that the disclosure that the car was not smogged is enough to put him on notice. I was suspicious too, Patricia, about the fake registration that they say was on the car when they bought it from auction. She says that she paid the registration, but I also think they kind of knew that there was a problem with the registrability of the car. So I don't know if he's met his burden, but I also don't think that they're dealing directly.
My personal opinion is that this was not an arm's length transaction. And because it wasn't an arm's length transaction, then I don't need to hang my hat on the as-is clause, because I think that what they did was not totally on the up and up. First of all, I think they sized up that he was totally unsophisticated as a buyer, etc. This is a kid who sends back a text saying, you need a smog test? I asked him, he doesn't even know what it is. And the statute says an explicit waiver. It says explicit because he needs to say, okay, I'm going to take this without the smog. Not that you could just write it into an ad, because the ad said $4,500. Then they went down to $3,500. Then they're selling it for this or that. They are buying and selling cars. They only had this car 1 month. I would bet that they tried to get it smogged, that they could not get it smogged. She didn't have title. She doesn't have a registration. They give this guy the car. He can't do anything with it. He's a 23-year-old kid. He doesn't have much of a job.
But can I?
And I want to give them the car back. Let them go get it smogged and sell it to somebody else.
Can I say one point on that? Because you got me. And where you got me was in pointing out that this was not an explicit waiver. By way of example, if someone sues you and you want them to release you from all claims, in the settlement, you actually have to have the statute that says you have the right to sue for other things, and the person has to see that and say, I am waiving this in order for this to be clear. So I think that's where
I'm hanging my hat on. It's not an explicit
because it was
waiver.
not explicit. It was sort of, it's implied, but an explicit waiver is
you
have to get it
I
done.
can agree with you on the explicit waiver. I'm
right.
not too persuaded that this wasn't arm's length.
I agree with that too.
In that sense, but it's pretty clear that he didn't know what he was negotiating away.
That's right.
And I said that it was not a knowing and intelligent waiver of that particular provision. You can't. He just takes the car. And I read
so the verdict would be that we undo the sale.
He gives the car back. They give him the money.
He paid for the car, what, $3,500?
$3,500.
$3,500.
And I'm not going to give him the extra money he spent on the other stuff.
Yeah, that was his choice to make. All right, we have a verdict.